get started here. So before we jump into it and all the introductions and everything, Janine's going to lead us through just a little bit of a grounding exercise. I encourage everyone to participate, even though you may have never been through a grounding exercise. I have no idea what Janine's going to do with us. But I guaranteed it'll be good. All right.
Yeah, it's lunchtime in the middle of a work day toward the end of the week. We've all had mornings, and just to kind of get us into the room and into our bodies, this will be very short and hopefully painless. So I would invite you, if you're comfortable, to close your eyes. Otherwise, you can just look down in front of you with sort of a soft gaze and sit with a straight and relaxed spine, your head straight, shoulders relaxed and chest open and feet flat on the floor. And always great to start with the breath. So take a few nice slow breaths. And as you do, just notice the gentle rise and fall of your chest or stomach. If thoughts or emotions come in, just notice them and let them go. As you keep breathing, maybe shift your attention to the temperature of the air as it goes into your nose and the temperature of the air as it exits your nose. Really focus on that. Again, your mind will wander, so just bring it back to that sensation of the air going in and out of your nose. And lastly, bring your attention all the way down to your feet and really feel the soles of your feet on the floor and see how many of your wonderful toes you can find. You can wiggle them around if you need to. See if you can locate as many as you can, maybe all of them. Hello to your toes on the ground in this moment. Okay, and you can open your eyes when you're ready. Hopefully you feel a bit more calm and grounded.
Thank you, Janine.
You're welcome. It'd be a good time. We have a short 3-question poll for you guys. If you want to answer a few quick questions while Lou and I introduce ourselves.
Yeah, so I'll just kick off. Lou Ionis, and I am a leadership development coach, and I really have kind of focused on the niche of leaders, and not just necessarily leaders in companies, but everybody's a leader at some level in their lives and at work. And a lot of what I focus in on is how do you take control and lead your life wherever it is. So I've had the pleasure of getting to know Janine as a peer, and we thought that combining our superpowers together would help the greater good here. And so I really have the pleasure of inviting Janine in, and her sharing some of these really cool kind of perspectives and tools that she's really passionate about. And through her passion, I've found a deep interest and want to know more. So I am here, just like you all are here, to learn about what she's going to be sharing. So I'm, if anything, even though I'm helping to facilitate this, I'm taking my own notes and I took the assessment myself. So I'm curious, like, okay, how do I deal with this? So Janine, if you want to go ahead and just share a little bit more about you to everyone, and then we can kind of go from there.
Yeah, thanks, Lou. I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for this opportunity to talk about this topic. And first off, I am by no means like a Jedi on this topic. I'm walking the path like everybody else, and maybe a few steps ahead of some of you, or maybe not. I am now, after 3 decades in the corporate world and in interior design, I am now a mental fitness coach and a life coach for stressed out professionals, with a specialization with design professionals, since I know that world so well. And what my passion is and my mission is to help people kind of go from chaos and stress to calm, clear, and creative. That's sort of the bottom line, helping my clients make time for what matters to them most and doing it with ease. Ease is probably the word I hear the most from my clients. I just want more ease. So that's kind of the opposite of stress. And I'm really passionate about this mental fitness practice, which we're going to talk about today, because it's, even after a dozen years of really deep personal work myself, this has just taken my personal and professional development off the charts, and sort of my ability to handle stress and cope with life's challenges. So I'm really excited to share that with you today. And I like to call myself a recovering perfectionist and people pleaser. Actually, I was an approval seeker, and those some of you may have gotten them in the saboteur assessment. Maybe you're the stickler. I'm also I have the controller. I am not a controller. I have the controller and the stickler. And those saboteurs cause a lot of stress. They push, and can cause a lot of problems in life. For me, it was, trying to be perfect all the time in everything and expecting others to be the same way. Getting off course professionally because I was more focused on achievement and getting approval versus really what my passion and what I was here to do and what I really love to do. And so that's a little bit like where my primary stress comes from these days. It's those voices about being perfect and trying to control things, causing a lot of anxiety. And now that I've got this mental fitness practice, things are better. Like I said, I am no black belt. I don't know, Lou, how about you? How does your stress come out? I think you're muted.
Yeah, that's a really good question, because that's a journey for me for sure. I find that stress just creeps up on me, and I just not paying attention, and all of a sudden I'm just agitated. I'm overwhelmed. It just becomes very difficult all of a sudden. And then I'm the kind that's brewing underneath. Nobody can probably tell, but it's brewing. And then all of a sudden it's just, that kind of explosion kind of thing. Not that I'm proud of that. We're all in a safe space, right?
Yep.
So yeah, and I definitely tend to love structure and rely on information and data to make me feel comfortable. And if that's not there, then I get a little agitated and uneasy, so any of those kind of, when I can ensure things are like in that controlled state, or very analytical and rational, and when that's not happening, that's usually where I take off.
Yeah, and you're not alone. It's like, welcome to the human condition, right? And that's one thing I would like to say here, just if, we can all agree that whatever is said and heard here, that it just stays in our little square of our Zoom room.
Yes.
Because it helps to talk about it, and shedding light on these things kind of takes some of the power away, or it can take the power away. So, I'm curious, by show of either your physical hand or virtual Zoom hand, how many of you over the last week have been awake at night with going through, it's 3 a.m. and you're going through either a conversation that you did have or that you're going to have. And like, I said this, and then they said this, and I should have said that, and I wish I did that. Or Okay, so we've got some hands on the 3 a.m. And who here in the last week or so has beat themselves up because they fell short of some expectation of themselves or their own, or should have done that differently, could have done that better, done it right. And then lastly, thanks for the hands, guys. Who's maybe let either a person, place, thing, or situation get you so upset that you've like lost focus and maybe not been as productive for an hour, a day, a week. Yeah. Okay. My people. So I would challenge you with that, and we'll get to this a little later, that you're not necessarily in control of your mind, because you wouldn't be choosing to be awake at 3 a.m. You wouldn't be choosing to beat yourself up. You wouldn't be choosing, the negativity and to blow up your day, but it's happening, right? And why? Well, thanks, Mario. I got the hand and the thumbs up. If you got to take the saboteur assessment, and hopefully you did, but even if you didn't, essentially there is a constant battle going on inside of our heads, between like your inner Jedi or sage and your inner Darth Vader or your saboteurs. And that's when, I think we said in the write-up that we are the source of all our stress. It's really it's that battle, right? That these fear-based thoughts generated by the survival brain and those saboteurs are what's causing our stress. Because the other person or thing or whatever is just happening. It's life happening, and it's how we're responding to it. That is the cause of all this angst and being awake at night. And I'll talk, maybe a little bit more. I'm curious who did get to take the saboteur assessment. Again, another show of hands. Anybody? All right, Linda, good. Mario, Tamara. Okay, well, I'll tell you who these characters are, and you will probably be able to self-identify with some, or if not all of them. We all, sometimes have these inside of us. There's the judge. That's the master. The judge is all about, this is bad, bad, bad. Either judging yourself, others, or situations as bad. And we're familiar, I think, a lot of times that judge is called the self-critic. That's the judge of self. Berating yourself for past mistakes or future missteps all the time. And when we get really good at that, then we start looking outside and we're constantly judging others for what's wrong with them. And then the one that can be kind of sneaky is that judgment of circumstances. This is the I'll be happy when. It's looking at what's going on in our current situation or circumstance that's not letting us be happy. So, I'll be happy when COVID's over. I'll be happy when I find that perfect partner, or when I get a promotion or a new car, or whatever it might be. So the judge is universal. Everybody's got the judge, master saboteur. It's crazy when you start paying attention to it, just how much this person shows up. Mine, I call Cruella, because she's really, really cruel. She's really mean. So I see from our poll that we've got kind of a mix of folks here. This is great. We have some folks who are pretty low, and some who are moderate, and some are off the charts with their stress. And it looks like work is number one, followed closely by relationship. And good thing to see that people are, nobody pushed through it. That's what I used to be really good at. So everyone's, got some coping mechanisms, which I think is fantastic. So those other saboteurs are the avoider, the controller, the pleaser, hyperachiever, hyper-rational, hyper-vigilant, restless, stickler, and victim. And maybe in a follow-up email, we can send that saboteur assessment link again, because it really is fascinating. And And one of the good things about these guys, gals, is that they're tend to be rooted in our biggest strength, just taken to an extreme. So for me, a stickler, I'm like meticulous, I'm organized, I'm detail oriented. Like these are all good things. There's nothing wrong with that. It's when it's taken to an extreme and you're trying to be perfect all the time with everything. That's just impossible. That leads to stress and exhaustion and anxiety, and that trickles out to everyone around us. So we shouldn't feel bad that we have these, saboteurs going on. Like I said, it's just the human condition. And they tell us lies that create negative thoughts and behaviors and actually generate the opposite outcome. So for like another one of mine, the controller, will say things in my head like, I can't get anything done, without controlling, or if I don't control, then I'll be controlled, or you need to push people to get stuff done. And that's just not true. And in fact, it causes the opposite of all that to happen. And so what else do I want to say about that? Does anyone want to be brave and tell us maybe what what saboteurs they have or how it comes into their life? I'm going to take a sip of water.
I'll share. Hi guys. Hey Lou, I see you're a fellow ex-swooshy, so just wanted to say hey. So scored a 10 out of 10 on the stickler, restless, pleaser, controller, 9.4 on the hyperachiever, 8.8 on the hypervigilant, 8.1 on avoider, and let's see, 5.6 on victim and 5 on hyper-rational. So yeah, I'm just a hot mess. We'll just summarize that.
I love it. You're obviously a very passionate person. And I would say in that instance, the two that kind of resonate the most with you are what you can focus on, because as we focus on certain ones, the others kind of can get more quiet too.
Yeah.
And you got that great sort of write-up of the impact and the thoughts and the behaviors of each one. And they can change over time. Like I'm sure in the past that my pleaser and hyperachiever were way higher, and those have sort of settled. And now, it's the stickler and controller, and none of us, we're never free of these. We can just learn how to minimize them and manage them.
I call it the committee in my head.
Yes.
That's so true. So
Love
true.
the committee. We can talk in a little bit about, how these things show up and what they cause, and go through some examples of maybe how to work with them. So I should say, actually, this whole framework is created by a gentleman named Shirzad Chamine, who is, he teaches this at Stanford. He's written a New York Times bestseller on positive intelligence and created this whole company and this whole framework around positive intelligence, or PQ. You may see it abbreviated as, and he did tons of research with over 500,000 people from 50 different countries, and created this really impactful framework that's not only like theory and science, but it's very practical, simple, practical, elegant little exercises that you can do every day that help minimize these things. And actually, we've already done some of them. The things I did in the beginning with the breath and the toe and your toes. It's as simple as that. But I'm probably getting ahead of myself. I'm just so excited about this. Yeah. So yeah, I don't know. Are there any questions about the saboteurs? Essentially it's your survival brain, and how when they're kind of hijacking you or taking over the steering wheel is when you're feeling a negative emotion, I'll call it, or a painful emotion, stress, anxiety, guilt, shame, embarrassment, blame, disappointment, resentment, all those great things. They're the ones that cause that push and that often cause us to like jump into reaction. Were you going to say something, Lou?
Yeah, the question. So as I look at my results and I'm like, okay, is this like a just who I am? I just have to just accept that I'm a hyper rational stickler, or is there hope that I could, I don't know, that it'll go away, or that I'll not be leading in this way?
Yeah, the latter, I think. So the thing to remember is that the saboteurs are rooted in some of your biggest strengths, right? So with hyper rational, that's things like you're capable of deep insight. These are the people who tend to be the inventors, really observant and perceptive. Great, they can have great expertise in areas of knowledge, and you don't want to get rid of that. You want to stay in the strength, which we're going to talk about when we talk about the sage brain, a different part of your brain. You just want to get rid of the over the topness, that fear-based charge, that negative push. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that totally makes sense. Another question. Do you feel, or do you know, do these come from, how we're raised, or environmental? Is it just my personality? What's the thoughts there?
So you're a parent, so you probably know this, like your kids, and I'm not a parent, but I've heard from other parents that your kids just come out who they are. And that probably pretty early on, you could see like, oh, this kid's, kind of bossy, and this one's like a pushover or whatever.
Yeah.
So certainly, the nurture element can come into play. But really, let's take that like hyper rational person has the deep insight and objective analysis, like somewhere along the way as a kid, even if you had the bestest upbringing, things are going to happen that are going to push you toward, if I do this, I feel safer, or maybe I get a better result. And so that's just how that over time, how that well-worn groove kind of develops. So it's not just, I had this kind of childhood or upbringing. That can accelerate it or inflate it. But really, we're all born with these strengths and predilections toward being a certain way. And then, just life kind of coming at us develops these coping habits. And there's a whole lot more of this in the book, Positive Intelligence, if you're interested in that. That gets, into the science and the psychology of it. But yeah, really good question.
Thank you.
Yeah. So what we want to do is intercept those saboteurs, right? With the positive intelligence model, that intercept is like the first muscle of mental muscle. And a lot of people will say, like a lot of my high achiever type clients might say, well, isn't stress good for you? Like, that's what's motivated me. That's how I've gotten here. Like I've gotten where I am by being a controller or a stickler or a hyper rational. And my answer to that would be like, yes, you can achieve some level of success. Success as maybe, society defines it, but is there peace in your heart and lasting happiness? Which is my definition of success. And I like to, give the analogy of the saboteurs can be helpful, and the emotions they cause can be helpful, just like putting your hand on a hot stove. Like you want to feel the pain so that to take your hand off and your hand just doesn't like get totally burned. So that's where the saboteurs can be helpful. It's like, oh, I'm feeling whatever, I'm feeling angry or worried or stressed out, like that's your alert signal for 1 second. What we do as humans is we stay there. We stay in that groove and we grind it until it's deeper and deeper, instead of just using it as a signal like, oh, something needs to change here. And that's the perfect segue into shifting to this other part of our brain, or the sage brain, which is located where it's the source of positive emotions like empathy and creativity and curiosity, and peace and calm, right? And that's the part of us that's more, you can call it your intuition. In the intuition medicine program I did, we called it our meditation sanctuary. In this, we call it the sage brain. It's just that part of the brain that's like where your like original essence, wise inner self lives. And when we can shift to that and operate from that place, then guess what? Then all the stress goes away, like our shoulders come down, we're more open, we're calmer, we can generate better ideas and be more innovative. The creativity flows better, getting into that non-judgmental, deep curiosity helps us solve problems better. Guess what? The people around us like being around us more because it's a lot more pleasant to be around us. So that's the idea of, turning from the fear, stress, and guilt and turning that, shifting, taking the fork in the road and choosing that gentler path, I guess I would say. And I like to give the example too, like a lot of times, I don't know about you guys, but like I usually don't come up with my most brilliant ideas when I'm sitting at the computer, like figuring something out or really thinking a lot about something, or it's usually when I'm hiking or in the shower or playing with my dog, right? That's the sage brain, because we've gotten out of here and are letting, kind of being open to more possibility.
So question.
Yeah.
So if I'm understanding it right, it's like something negative is happening that I'm perceiving negative, right? Something bad, and I'm ruminating on it. I'm continuing to play it back in my head or get more and more agitated. And that's where you're saying we're staying there, we're stuck there.
Mm-hmm.
And part of this practice is to have some sort of awareness to pull ourselves out of it and put our brain over here instead, into the sage area. Yeah.
Yeah.
So okay, I'm sure you're going to get to this,
yeah,
but I'm like very curious. It's like,
yes.
I'm stuck in that zone.
Yes.
Nothing's pulling me out of there. I don't know. I'm like stuck there.
Okay.
So how do I, gathering the awareness and strength to pull myself out?
Mm-hmm.
That I'm very curious about.
And I like that you use the word strength, because it's about mental muscle. So saboteurs are like bad, stress, anger, fear, whatever that is. So the sage there's something called the sage perspective. So you notice the negative emotions, you stop. We're going to do some PQ reps, which is how you kind of calm your system down and shift to the sage perspective. But the sage perspective is that there's a gift and opportunity in every situation, which sometimes can be hard to, this takes practice too, to notice. But I'm guessing if you think back in your life for a time when you labeled something as bad, an illness, an injury, losing a job, a breakup, whatever, that in hindsight, there was a gift or an opportunity in that situation. So the sage looks for the gift or opportunity. And then the sage has 5 different powers that create the gift. And those are empathy, empathize, explore, navigate, innovate, and activate. And we can talk more about those, but it's as simple as that. So it's like, I'm going negative, stop. I'm going to do some PQ reps, which I think makes sense. Maybe we do those next. Some of those things we did where I had you feel your feet or breathe. That literally, if you are hooked up to an fMRI machine when you're doing those, the survival part of your brain gets dark and the sage part of your brain like lights up. Like it actually builds gray matter. And similar to, you don't just go to the gym once, right? And do like 3 sets of 10 bicep curls and you're done. It's repetition and continual practice that over time builds that muscle so that you can shift more deeply and more quickly, and in more and more stressful situations, kind of the more mentally fit you get. So do we want to do a few more of those PQ reps to kind of get us in the zone, or what would you like to?
Yeah.
Quick question.
Yeah,
If that's okay.
of course.
I read a lot about this and studied in this area a lot of different methodologies, and I've been trying different things for myself because I have that runaway committee in my head, and it's like getting triggered. It's like you get triggered and then you have this like PTSD response that, and all these parts come into play, right? Or a couple of them or one of them. One of the techniques that doesn't work all the time for me, but sometimes, is if I'm able to shift my focus into something that takes so much of my left brain that it takes all of my focus, like sight reading a new piece of music at the piano, or doing really difficult math problems, something that you can't focus on anything else. And I'm wondering if part of that plays into this methodology at all.
What my non-professional take on that would be is that it's kind of similar, but that those things you mentioned are still, they're still in the brain. They're still using the thinking brain. And I totally get that intense focus can absolutely, close out those voices. I think what this methodology does is take that one step further, by getting you into your body and completely out of the thinking brain. That not only allows you to shut out the other stuff, but it opens up the space to respond differently and to respond from, that wiser self. And maybe
it makes a lot of sense, actually. So thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, no, that makes total sense. Thanks.
Awesome. I love it. So basically what a PQ rep is just exquisite attention to a single physical sensation for 10 seconds. And that's one PQ rep. The sort of baseline for really getting into it. And, sometimes when you work out, you jump into the practice a little bit more intensely, is 15 minutes a day. 15 minutes a day for 6 to 8 weeks really kind of kickstarts this. And that can be broken up. It can be in one 15-minute session, chunk. It can be broken up into small practices. Like I have a meditation practice, and I think you probably do too, Lou, and a lot of people do. What I've found, and that absolutely stays, but what this does with these things, you can do them 100 different ways. You can do them with your eyes open or closed. You can do them moving, standing, sitting. You can do them right in the middle of, if you're in a meeting that's starting, you're like, oh, I'm starting to get activated. You can be feeling your toes in your shoes and no one's going to know it. Or, you can be just paying attention to your breath. You can be looking really intensely at the person who's speaking and noticing, using your vision to notice details about them you've never noticed before. So it's really helpful in that way, because I know when I'm just meditating, like carrying that feeling from the cushion all the way through my day doesn't always work. So these are ways to kind of tap back into that really quickly. Cool. So let's maybe just do a few more PQ reps, and then we can take some either questions or go through. I can share some examples of how this has worked for me or for my clients, or I'm happy to even take someone's dealing with a specific stressful situation at the moment. We could walk through, we can walk through the steps and see if we can throw some sage at it. So
And I'll just jump in real quick. Everyone's welcome. If you don't want to speak up, that's totally cool.
Yeah.
Use the chat. I'm doing my best to monitor the chat, and I'll answer everything I can, or I'll pose it to Janine. Okay.
Okay. Okay, so again, if you're comfortable to close your eyes, if not, you can just gaze in front of you and go back to that straight, relaxed spine with your chest open and shoulders relaxed and feet flat on the floor. And really gently rub two of your fingertips together with such a tension that you can feel the ridges on both fingers. Rub those two fingertips together. Such focus that you can feel the ridges on both fingers. And then switch over to taking all the fingertips of one hand and gently rub them against the fingertips and palm of the other hand. And just notice all those sensations. If thoughts or feelings come up, just notice them and let them go. Now, using your sense of hearing, notice maybe all the ambient sound in the room that you might not have been noticing. Just see everything you could hear. And notice the farthest away sound that you can hear. Now notice the closest sound you can hear. If you haven't noticed the sound of your breath, notice the sound of your breath. Good job. You can open your eyes when you're ready. How's that for everybody?
So interesting.
What's interesting about it?
So I don't know. I've had this body for way too many years to have never really felt the ridges in my hand. I mean, sure, I put my hands together, but to stop and actually feel the ridges and things.
Yep.
Yeah, that was interesting. And then didn't realize my dog snores right here. As she sits. I didn't how heavy
Mine's
she's
snoring
breathing.
against me too.
So yeah, interesting.
And how
calming.
how much sensation is in the palm of our hand.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah.
How about you, Tamara?
Sorry. Yeah, it reminds me of some of the like stuff they have on Headspace. The meditation app.
Yeah.
Kind of mindfulness sort of stuff. I still am struggling to have a meditation practice because I've got one of those brains that like I could barely sit still and do what you were doing. Like it's bad. I'm such a hyper spaz. So it's just something I need to work on. But when I am able to slow down and have a meditation practice, which is kind of sporadic, I'm so much more focused. I'm so much more productive. It's that frantic, gerbil on the wheel in the mind that we think is productive, but I don't think it actually is.
Oh, very much not. I know it's not. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. And I would just say, it's called a practice for a reason. So keep at it. You're doing good, whether it's, even for 30 seconds. I'll be talking a little bit about something that you might be interested in. So if you want to up your practice, then do it with a group of folks. So I just thought we could walk through sort of just the 4 steps of this operating system. If someone has an example of something they're dealing with right now that's problematic, it can be small, I mean, or it can be big. Or I could give an example if anyone feeling brave.
There was somebody that chimed in on the chat, that if I'm understanding it right, when you're taking a rest or break and you're feeling guilty, right? You're just feeling guilty for, I guess, taking that break, because whatever, you're supposed to be doing
Right.
X,
Uh-huh.
and you feel bad now, that you're actually caring for yourself, or
Right,
taking a break
yeah.
and recharging. How do you take that situation with that
Yeah.
heavy?
Good one. So that would be, well, first, the first step is to like notice the guilt, right? That whatever that emotion is that's coming up, and stop and just say, I'm in saboteur mode. No, thank you. Do some PQ reps to kind of get into that sage space. Ask, once you're there, and some things you could maybe do it for 10 seconds, some things might take 10 minutes. You can kind of gauge when you've shifted, and then it's getting into that sage perspective of like, where's the gift or opportunity here? And I would say the gift, well, it would be personal, but if I were answering that, it would be, well, there could be a gift of being kinder to myself, right? Allowing myself to rest when I need it. So that's when we go to those sage powers, and the one that comes up for me in this instance is empathy. And each of the sage powers has like a power game. And for empathize, it's imagining yourself as a child, as like a 4 or 5-year-old, and really connecting with that sweet, like beautiful essence of who you really are. And that being is still in there. And so often that can, that can be enough, like really getting into deep empathy. I mean, most of us don't have a lot of empathy for ourselves or others. And so really, really focusing on the empathy piece can help. Another sage power in this instance that might work could be like the navigate power. That's all about the game there is flash forward. So you think about, and this is sort of like getting more into connected with your purpose. So it's thinking about like at the end of my life, toward the end of my life, I'm still of sane and happy usefulness, sane mind and, sound mind and body. Like, what will I have wished I had done in this instance? Like what? So that can be a helpful one too.
Yeah, interesting. So interesting.
Hi, I would like to comment something. Hi, Luke.
Hey.
I'm actually here at the factory. I'm taking this the chance to see this for a while, and so the exercises when we were just listening what it's sounds behind us. It just sometimes I'm very stressed and I'm working at the computer, and now that I had a chance to look what is to hear what's behind of me, all the sound of the factory, all the people that is working behind me, it just gave me perspective, that I might be stressed here, but this is a teamwork, and as you said, it gives me a sense of empathy with the rest of the people that is around.
Beautiful. That was Cynthia, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
That's great, Cynthia. Oh.
Thank you, Cynthia.
Yeah, I think that, there is that kind of component of creating compassion for those around you that you might be perceiving it as stress, but if you could transform that into something where you actually feel a little more compassion for all the craziness going around, that it could be something that could calm you rather than increase stress. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's just like you imagine yourself as that 4 or 5-year-old, you can imagine another person who you might be in conflict conflict with, or all the people around you. Just kind of, you know, connecting with them, and that they've got these pure, beautiful beings inside them too, that are just pure love and energy, and really just trying to get through their day as well, right? I need some water. I think, Linda, you had your hand up.
Yeah. Hi, Janine.
Hi. Good to hear you.
So the biggest challenge in my life right now is Mr. Barry. He actually should be on this call, frankly.
Send him the saboteur assessment.
Huh?
Send him the saboteur assessment.
I think I might have.
Okay.
Whereas I'm all the top, like the controller and the stickler, he would be like and I don't know if there's under function, you know, he'd be like in the withdrawal. Anyways, I'm not
Avoider,
gonna talk about
maybe,
him.
yeah.
But, you know, because I'm a controller and because I'm a stickler, and he's been in a funky space for kind of like over a year, and my job is to basically just be as loving and compassionate as I can be for him. That's the most healing thing that I could possibly do. However, I get like, well, why aren't you doing it like this? And why aren't you doing that? And I know all that stuff is just a reflection of me.
Mm-hmm.
But I still, and like, I have little notes here, like pause in big letters, you know, like,
yeah,
as sort of the trick. And I still get caught up in it, you know,
mm-hmm.
and the frustration and or disappointment and or, well, yeah, it's mostly frustration and actually it's sad too. Like I don't have my hubby, I don't have I don't have my sweetie who I love, you know, he's not fun anymore.
Yeah. Yeah.
So all of that, I guess. So not quite sure there's a specific question in there, but just here's what's going on.
Yeah, no, thanks for the check-in, and I so get that. One thing that can be helpful is the explorer power is called the fascinated anthropologist. And that's really going into a situation with complete non-judgment, just like wonder and fascination of like what's going on here. Sometimes I'll picture like a kid on a beach just turning over rocks, like no expectation of what they're going to find. They're not going to take it personally if whatever they find under this rock, like what can be learned, what aren't I seeing? That can be a really helpful exercise.
Well, I think that what you said before of what's the I don't know if you said what's the gift?
The gift or opportunity, yeah.
Yeah. Because each time I'm annoyed, it's an opportunity to go, okay, Linda, what's going on with you? Like, because it's just a reflection of, and I like opportunity. I'm an opportunist, right? So if I could frame it in my head like that, that might help better.
Yeah, and one of the so the 3 gifts that we talk about in positive intelligence is there's either like if I can get through this situation like I want to, what is the gift of either knowledge, power / strength, not like power over, but what power will I gain, or inspiration, like what might be there for me. What might be there for me. So that could be something to think about too, that it's not just what's going on with me, which is an important exercise, but what's at stake, what's there for me, what's that like brass ring, if I can get through this, will I be even more patient? Can I be more loving? Can I be a better partner?
Well, we've labeled Barry my patience teacher.
Yeah, he's your Jedi master, your Jedi trainer, your sensei. Totally, everyone we're in relationship with is our teacher.
Yeah. Cool, thanks.
Linda, say hi to Barry.
I will do.
Lou?
Yeah, so just the stickler of me, calling out that we are coming up on the end
5
here.
minutes, yeah.
So I want to make sure that we get everybody out on time. And I want to make sure people understand what to do from this point on. I mean, you were listing off lots of different techniques and things. I captured almost none. So it kind of feels like I would need some way of growing this, making it, integrating it in some way, but how would I do that, I guess?
Well, good segue. And I'm going to put some links in the chat because I can't talk and cut and paste at the same time. So I'm glad you asked, because, well, certainly if you want to talk more about this, one of the links is if you want to set up a 30-minute call with me. I'd love to talk more about specifically what's going on with you and how I might be able to support you, or how the mental fitness might support you. I do have a mental fitness boot camp, a 10-week boot camp that's starting up on July 5th. So after experiencing the benefits of this myself, I really just want to bring this to others. And it's a way to do that like initial intense training with a group of people, which, as we all know, we're way more bound to do something and stick with it if we've got accountability buddies and people pulling for us. So it's in a group setting of up to 6 people. And you can read all about it. There's a very lengthy page on my website. There's what I didn't mention is that Positive Intelligence developed an app around this, so that's how you get your practice. Is every day for 6 weeks, you get little challenges like 3 times a day that remind you to do these reps. And there's a gym in there. If you want to do extra reps, you can go in and do a 2, 5, or a 12-minute practice. Like if you've got a meeting coming up that you're really stressed about or nervous, or a conversation that might be hard, you can use it before then, and it tracks it's got a meter of like your progress, and you can chat with your group within the app. It's really great. It's in 2 weeks in that program, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is what has been missing from the work I've been doing, because it was this practical way of like putting all this learning and all these tools I had, like putting them into action. So that's coming up. Starts on July 5th. Registration is going to close June 15th, and I'm offering anyone on this call a 20% discount. There's a code LOU20 in the chat.
Code, I like it.
Yeah. And I do want to say, if you commit and do the program as designed and you are not satisfied with the outcomes you get, I will give you your money back. That's how certain I am of how much this works if you work it. And as your leader, I can see if you're working it. So I would love to see folks in that group, or talk with you if you want to learn more, or even just connect on LinkedIn, whatever works for you today.
Cool.
We've still got 4 minutes left. Does anyone else have any thoughts, questions, reflections?
I do.
would say take what you like and leave the rest. If you got one thing, great. And if the rest didn't work for you, that's fine too. You're welcome, whoever said thank you.
So it's funny. I think I've thought about this off and on, and I don't know. I was on a flight in Las Vegas at a trade show right now, and I was on a flight and I watched that movie, that Eat, Pray, Love again. And there's a section in it where the guy from Texas, he's calling Julia Roberts Groceries as his nickname for her. And he tells her she's at the ashram and she's trying to master her mind. And he's like, look, you do the work. He's like, you can master your mind. You can pick your thoughts just like you pick your clothes. Mm-hmm. And, and it's like, it's so interesting, like this whole subject, because it's like, I feel like my mind most of the time is this out of control, bratty child. And So I think a lot of this would be really helpful, and I'm definitely going to look into it because I'm always trying to study how to master that, have more calmness, be more of a responder versus a reactor.
Yes.
Right. And have that, like you were saying, sage brain versus the neurotic, whatever else is going on brain. So
Yeah.
thank you for sharing all this.
Yeah, you're welcome. And it's, I hate to say it, there's no quick fix. It's like there's no quick way to lose 20 pounds or, get to be CEO. Like you got to do the work, and it's practice and repetition, and it can, it can be fun too. That would be the sage, would be, instead of thinking it as like trudging along, it'd be enjoying the process and celebrating as the victories along the way.
Super cool. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much, Janine.
Yeah, thanks everyone for coming.
So applicable. I appreciate it. Thank you everyone for joining.